also in Harrisburg.
Okay. And Yasota, what city are you in?
Yashoda is also in Harrisburg, specifically Gita Nagri.
Okay, well, my good friends are there. You know, Divyananda and Sarvatma are there.
Yes,
In fact,
yes,
I was speaking to them last night.
yeah, they're very good friends.
Very good. Divyananda got initiated in the mid 80s in my home.
Wow.
And then Sarvatma and I were friends before that. And eventually, 25 or so years ago, they became a couple.
Mm.
Um, so, anybody else who's joining, tell me what city you're in. Okay, so we'll begin. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Bhagavatam, descriptions of the kingdom of God. So,
Actually, Prabhuji, we are live on YouTube at the moment.
okay, thank you.
Yes.
Um, so to build up
I'll,
to this,
I'll put the verse on the screen.
okay, good. To build up to this verse, Diti got pregnant at an inauspicious time, and her husband says, now's not the right time. But she wanted a kid, and as the saying goes, come hell or high water, she was going to get her way. And every married man knows it's happy wife, happy life. So Kashyapa, in spite of knowing it's the wrong time, impregnated her. And it was an inauspicious time. And of course, all this was Krishna's amazing pastime. Of all, I know many women who actually can multitask successfully. I only know one male who can multitask very well, and his name happens to be Krishna. Men are not very good at it. Women, they have to run a household, take care of children, um, sometimes have a career and a major profession, and they're actually somehow or other can do it. Men, we struggle at this, but Krishna can do it. So here, Krishna is doing the ultimate multitasking, and in this multitasking, he is accomplishing many things. So one of them is satisfying his desire for some fun, which in this case is a good battle. It's just like when I was a child, sometimes we would play soldiers. Maybe we used to play different kinds of soldier games, and we would have guns that shoot caps. Caps, they make a little popping noise. I mean, no projectile comes out of it. And we would shoot at each other. It was impossible to get hurt because there was no projectiles. But it's just like that. So Krishna sometimes likes to play a little. Excuse my voice, a little bit of a cold. And he and I, since I have a little bit of a cold, I advise all of you after class to wipe your screens and disinfect it just to make sure. Okay. Uh, we want to be safe. So Krishna here is wanted to play, and when the four Kumaras approached Vaikuntha and the gatekeepers, Vijay and Jai, I mean, the four Kumaras are very old, but look like 5-year-olds, and they don't even have any clothes, but they're just innocent 5-year-olds. If you would see one of us walking around without clothes, it would be very shameful. But when you see a 5-year-old walking around without clothes, people don't think it's shameful. It's just so what? So they look like 5-year-olds, very renounced. They were actually impersonalists. But then when they saw Vishnu, that all changed. That's later on. But for now, they're approaching, and Vijay and Jai stopped them. should have stopped them, and they got cursed. And they could go 7 births as devotees or 3 births as demons. They said, let us go for the demons. We want to get back, which is what Krishna wanted. And they then went into the womb of Diti, who had engaged in procreation at an inauspicious time. But Krishna is the ultimate multitasker. So he timed it when the 4 Kumaras are approaching Vaikuntha just at the moment when souls are about to enter the womb of Diti. That is intense multitasking. So now we'll get to today's verses, which have to do with time, but a little context. So Deva Ucha Tama Itad Vibho Vita Samvignayat Vayam Brisham Hani Avayaktam Bhagavata Kalena Sprita Vartmana. The fortunate demigod said, "O great one, just see this darkness, which you know very well, which is causing its anxieties. Cause of the influence of time, you cannot touch you. There is nothing manifest before you." So when Diti became pregnant, because it was inauspicious, darkness came to the universe. And it was an inauspicious thing. It was so inauspicious that all of a sudden there was darkness in all directions. And then the purport, Brahma is addressed herein as Vibhu. And Vibhu is translated in, let me see, in the word for word as, "O great one." So, and he's addressed as a personality of Godhead. And Prabhupada explains why in the next sentence. He is a supreme personality of Godhead's incarnation of the mode of passion in the material world. He is non-different in the representative sense from the personality of Godhead. Prabhupada often gives example. When the king or queen of England would show up, they'd be given all honors as the king or queen, but sometimes they didn't show up. They sent their viceroy. Just take India. The Queen Victoria never visited India because her security staff said it was too dangerous. People might have tried to assassinate her. She became Queen of England. Does anybody know a Queen Empress of India? Anybody know in what year? Can somebody unmute and tell me what year did Queen Victoria become Empress of India? We'll give a little history. Anybody know? Take a guess.
I said 1910.
No, earlier. Anybody else have a guess? I'll give a little history as an aside. 1857.
1857.
And what happened is you had this Sepoy mutiny. At that time, India was ruled by little kingdoms, and the Mughal emperor in Delhi, who had ruled a good parts of India, their kingdom had shrunk down, but it was still there, but it had shrunk. And the East India Company, a trading company, which headquarters in Calcutta and later Lucknow, basically ruled parts of India, but they were a trading company. So they didn't officially rule India. And India had an army. And the army was composed of officers who were all white and brown soldiers known as sepoys. So the officer rank was almost virtually all white, and the soldiers were all brown. In 1857, around that time, they switched guns for the army. Now, this is the East India Company. And there were all these kingly kingdoms, and then there was one emperor whose kingdom had shrunk, the Mughal emperor. You had the Rajput kings and different kings and kings in Kashmir. That fighting still goes on. And they switched bullets. And the new bullets needed to be greased. You had to load each bullet into the musket and it had to be greased. And the rumor began that it was greased with pig fat or cow fat. Now, I don't know what the truth was, but that was the rumor. And all it took was a rumor. So therefore, the Muslim soldiers revolted because the idea of dealing with pig fat was against their religion. And the Hindu soldiers revolted because dealing with cow fat was against their religion. So they rose up against the officer corps. And there are many soldiers and few officers, many brown soldiers and few white officers. And they would have won if it wasn't for a Captain Hopkins. Captain Hopkins, and I know this because his great nephew is a friend of mine and gave me a book on it and actually toured India with me. Is a professor at the university here. And this Hopkins knew all the indigenous languages. And because of that, he was able to get some of the kings, these little kings and princes, to join with this rebellion. And eventually they defeated the British. Otherwise, the British surely would have won this. But he was so clever. He defeated the British, and then Britain declared. I mean, not defeated the British. He defeated the sepoys. I mean to say, not the British. He was defeating these rebel soldiers. There were many more rebel soldiers than there were officers. But because he could get these Rajput and other kingdoms to join him, he was able to put down the rebellion. And the last battle was in Lucknow. And the battle was over. And then at that point, India said, we are taking this as a crown colony. So that's a little side history of how that happened. And he had captured the Emperor of Delhi, who was so stoned on opium he didn't know he was captured. Put him in exile in Burma. At India Gate, he killed his 2 children, the only remaining heirs. And the next thing you know, it's a crown colony. So that's a little history of what happened, just as a little aside here. But we're going to move on. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead's Brahma incarnation, the mode of passion in the material world. He is non-different in a representative sense from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the influence of time can affect him. And the reason why that relates to the story I just told is Queen Victoria would never visit India. It was too dangerous, but she sent her viceroys. And her viceroy, and the last one was Mountbatten. But the viceroys that would come would receive the same respect as if Queen Victoria had gone to India. Again, too dangerous for her to go. But she wanted to go actually, but her advisors wouldn't let her. So the viceroy would receive the same respect. So the viceroy was certainly not the Queen of England or the Empress of India. So in a similar way, though Brahma is not the personality of Godhead, he is, in that sense, non-different. And Prabhupada specifically says he is non-different in the representative sense from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So I'm giving this analogy to India to explain what representative sense actually means. And that's what it means. So he is not God, as some might contend, but he is given the same respect. In the same way, we respect the spiritual master as good as God, but never as God. If you want to get Prabhupada angry, really angry, took a lot to get Prabhupada angry, but one thing would always get him angry: call him God. Ooh, Prabhupada did not like that. When that happened, he would throw people out of the movement who said that. And because he's Prabhupada, he'd of course invite him back. But he wanted to protect his movement. He is a servant of God, never, never God. But at the same time, gets the same respect as God. In the early days, when Prabhupada first said that to devotees on Second Avenue, you respect the spiritual master as good as God, they were shocked. They didn't understand what that meant. So some of them thought, well, he must be God. Ooh, that didn't go well with Prabhupada. But to respect someone as good as God and not see him as God, that's one of the lessons being taught here. So Brahmas offer that respect, but not God. So the influence of time, which manifests as past, present, and future, cannot touch higher personalities like Brahma and other demigods. Sometimes demigods who obtain such perfection are called Trikala, meaning beyond the influence of time. Now, we're going to discuss that in some detail. I'll do the next verse. But what does it mean to be beyond the influence of time? So we'll discuss that in a little bit. Next verse. O God of the demigods, sustainer of the universe, head jewel of all the demigods and other planets, you know the intentions of all living entities in both the spiritual and material worlds. Because Brahma is almost, now almost is not the same as equal, but almost equal footing with the personality of Godhead, he is dressed here as God of the demigods. And because he's a secondary, not primary, secondary creator of the universe, he is dressed as sustainer of the universe. He, the actual sustainer is, of course, Vishnu, but he's addressed that way. He is head of the demigods, and he's addressed here as a head jewel of the demigods. It's not difficult for him to understand everything what's happening in both the spiritual and material worlds. He knows everyone's heart and everyone's intentions. Therefore, he was requested to explain this incident, which is, why was a pregnancy of deity causing such anxieties all over the universe? Things were getting dark, people were in anxiety. Why was this happening? Something inauspicious was going on. So Brahma is being asked to explain it. Now, going back to the previous verse, we're talking about time. Well, let me ask you a question. Is time the same for every human being from Earth? If I put a super perfect atomic watch, and they make them, these watches much better than Apple Watch, they keep perfect time. Does every person on the planet, or every person born on the planet, let's put it that way, you'll see why I'm saying that in a minute, every person who's born on the planet, will that watch be the same? So we can turn off the screen share, and somebody tell me if that is true or not true. And I'd like the host to turn off the screen share and turn on my screen sharing, please, because I'm going to share something in a little bit. Okay, could the host turn off the screen share and turn on my screen sharing? Have we lost the, okay, thank you. And turn on my screen sharing. Not yet turned on. Host has disabled screen sharing. Still disabled. If we could, okay, that's working
Now you can.
Thank you, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Okay,
Sorry.
we'll share in a minute. So let me ask this question. Is time the same for if every human being on Earth had an atomic watch, one of these perfect watches, would those watches stay in synchronization, always reading the same time? Yes or no? Does anybody, here's what we'll do. We'll make this more interesting. Can I do polls on here?
I was saying yes.
Okay, you say yes.
Yeah, yes, but the yes is dependent on the location. If they are all at the same location, then yes. If different locations, then it will be no.
Which location would be different?
Because we have different time zones.
Well,
Like
I'm talking about not telling the exact same time, but would 1 minute be the same wherever you are? Let me ask the question differently. I want to time something for 1 minute. Will it be the same minute if I'm in Africa, I'm in USA, or I'm in India?
I'll say yes.
Okay. Would it be the same if I'm in the International Space Station?
No.
Why?
Because I'll say because probably of the atmospheric pressure.
No, no.
No.
Yeah, the space station is pressurized to the same pressure you're at now.
Hmm.
You're getting close, though. That was close. Anybody else have a comment on this? Perfect atomic watches. Somebody tell me. Anybody? You can unmute and tell me. Okay. I will give you.
Because of the distance.
Say again.
Because of the distance.
Not quite. Distance makes no difference, but you're getting warm. You're getting warm. It has to do with speed. It's called Einstein relativity. Newton felt that time moves at a constant pace wherever you are, no matter how fast you're going. But if light has a speed limit of 186,000 miles a second, that created a problem. And Einstein, in his theory of relativity, realized we have a problem. And the only way the problem can be is the faster you go, the slower time moves. So if we're moving close to the speed of light, our clock will go very, very slow. And it's called the twin paradox. Now, this has relevance for what's going on in this verse. So there's a very famous astronomer based in New York at the Museum of Natural History called Neil deGrasse Tyson. Some of you may have heard of him. He's probably the most famous astronomer in America.
I love him a lot.
You've heard of him?
I love him, yes. He's my friend on Facebook.
Oh, really? Okay. So
Yes.
I'm going to play a video of him discussing this very issue. It's a short video. I'm going to cue it up now. Let's see. Oops, I'm sorry, I clicked wrong. Let me do this again. Okay. Okay, and it should start playing. If it doesn't want to give me a hard time. Okay, it's giving me a little bit of a hard time. We'll try it again. It's playing, but not playing. Okay, we'll try this again. Let me stop the share and do it again. I must have clicked wrong. To err is human, and to forgive is divine.
One of the towering great achievements of the human mind and our understanding of the universe is Einstein's theories of relativity. It's actually, the tenets of it are quite simple, almost scary simple. It makes only two assumptions: that the speed of light in a vacuum is constant no matter who is doing the measurement and no matter what direction you are moving or how fast. You'll always get the same measurement for the speed of light. That's assumption one, which, by the way, experiment has shown to be true. Assumption two, that the laws of physics as you measure them are the same for every observer who would be doing the measuring, provided you are on a vessel that's either moving at a constant speed or not moving at all. Those are the only two tenets that you have to buy into. And all experiments have shown that both of those two tenets are correct. Given those two tenets, extraordinary, spooky phenomenon derive from them. For example, as you travel faster, or if you find yourself in the vicinity of a higher source of gravity, time ticks more slowly for you than it does for other people who are not. It's not just your clock, it's everything about you and your environment slows down. You don't notice this because everything is slowing down, including your neurosynaptic thought rate. So it goes unnoticed to you, but it's patently obvious to everybody else observing you. And this leads us to the famous twin paradox. So here's how it works. Let me get a pair of twins, all right? They're born the same time, they're the same age. And now one of them, I will send off at 90% the speed of light. And the other I'll keep down here on Earth. So we can ask, how do their aging rates compare? Okay? Turns out, this twin that I've already sent, his clock ticks 44% as fast as this twin's clock, our clock here on Earth. So, this twin is aging more slowly than this one. That's at 90% the speed of light. Let's pump it up some more. How about 99% the speed of light? Now the time ticks at only 14% the rate as it does back here on Earth. How about 99.9%? We're getting closer and closer to the speed of light itself. And at that speed, the clock ticks only 4.5% as fast. So, what does this mean? Tell you what it means. This twin that travels for 5 years and comes back, if they went at 99.9% the speed of light, after 5 years, they're 5 years older. We have aged 110 years. It's called the twin paradox. It's only a paradox if you think about it in sort of classical terms. How could that be? But in relativity, there is no paradox at all. That is a fundamental feature of what happens when all you do is presume that the speed of light is the same for everybody and the laws of physics remain constant.
Prabhuji, you are muted.
I hope I bewildered you all no end. My purpose of this was to bewilder you. We can explain it more. But this is one of they call time dilation. Now, I'm going to ask a very difficult question. It's actually pretty easy. Now you've heard what time dilation is. We're going to discuss next time in Vaikuntha, because that's what's discussed in the third verse. But first, I have a question for all of you. Give an example of time dilation from the Shastra. Anybody give me an example? You've just heard what time dilation is. You travel, and when you travel at a certain speed, your time moves much slower. And when you come back, everyone else is aging and you haven't aged. That's what Yeah, Gail.
Brahma Vimohan Leela, maybe?
Yeah, tell more. Explain it in detail.
Well, let's see. Lord Brahma had stolen the cowherd boys and calves for what he thought was just a moment. And then, but what actually happened was that a whole year had passed on Earth.
Exactly. Well done, Gail. And there's another example where
And that's coming from somebody who has no idea about what just was said in that
Yeah,
video.
no, well said, Gail. And there are other examples in the Bhagavatam. If somebody else wants to give one, they're welcome to. Otherwise, I'll move on.
Yeah, there was one great saint, I don't remember the name, who also wanted a suitable
A suitable wife, yeah.
a suitable husband. I think it was husband for his daughter, and went all the way to Lord Brahma. And when he came back, so many generations had passed on, but I can't think of the name.
Yeah. No, I got the same brain block, but I know the one. And there are
Yeah.
many examples. And so the point is that if we want to understand Einstein time dilation, we can read the Bhagavatam. It explains it. And if we want to understand the Bhagavatam, we can study Einstein time dilation. This is the marriage Prabhupada wanted of science and philosophy. It's not that we say that, I run the Bhaktivedanta Institute. This is our bread and butter. This is what we do all day. The Bhagavatam helps illuminate modern science, and modern science actually helps illuminate the Bhagavatam. This Prabhupada once said, these scientists, they're very proud. And then he said, and they have something to be proud of, so treat them with respect. They made, as Prabhupada said, 747s and all these things. So, so time is relative. In Newton's time, time was not relative. It was an arrow. It was not relative. Beginning in about 120 years ago, time became relative with the general theory of relativity in 1915. All of a sudden, time became relative. And it's proven. And astronauts who are in the International Space Station, who have an atomic watch with them, they're going 17,000 miles an hour. Now, that's not close to the speed of light. But it's fast enough that the same atomic clock left on Earth when they left, loses some time. It might be 1 second a month, but there's a difference. And this is repeated every day. Now, there's another example of this. It's called GPS. GPS satellites, how do they work? They work by something called triangulation. We have 3 satellites, and we know the time it takes for the signal from our iPhone to reach each satellite. And then you can do mathematical, it's just simple geometry, triangulation, and know your exact position within a few feet. Every one of you uses this every day, GPS. When the first GPS came about, it wasn't very accurate because the military scrambled the signal. They didn't want the Soviets to be able to use GPS to shoot their missiles. So you can only go within hundreds of feet of where you were. It wasn't good for navigating. But then eventually the military said, okay, we'll let everyone use it. Now, GPS is work on these satellites, but how fast are the satellites moving in their orbit? Somebody tell me. I already said the number. How fast does a satellite move relative to us sitting on Earth? Anybody? 17,000 miles an hour. So every GPS satellite, the clock on there is different than the clock in our iPhone. Therefore, correction signals are sent every day to every GPS satellite because of Einstein's theory of relativity, which is found all over the Bhagavatam. Many, many examples. We discussed 2 of them today. So I'm trying to make the point that science will help you understand the Bhagavatam, and Bhagavatam will help you understand science. I can't say how important that point is. Sometimes devotees will discard science, which is silly, and scientists will discard the Bhagavatam, which is equally as silly. The Bhagavatam is special. It had Einstein relativity in it when Newton says there's no such thing. Okay, moving on. Now we come to the difficult question. What about the spiritual world? Is there time in the spiritual world? Um, um, well, if there's past, present, and future in the spiritual world, then things live and die and all, Krishna says in the Gita, what does Krishna say about time in the Gita? Can someone tell me? Krishna says something very dramatic about time in the Gita.
Time
Somebody
I
help.
am.
Time I am, yes.
Time I am the what? The destroyer.
Destroyer.
Yes, time destroys everything. Because all of us, I hate to tell you this, I hope I'm not ruining your day, but you're going to die. And, sorry to be a spoiler, spoiler alert, you're going to die. We all think we won't, but so time. So how can you have time in the spiritual world? But if there's no time, how can there be events? Because event means something, then something. So how do we resolve this paradox? So a few days ago, a Swami wrote me, senior Swami wrote and said, "You're the BI. And he asked me this question, very relevant for this class. Said, I have long struggled to understand the nature of time in the spiritual world. I understand that consciousness always exists and perceives reality in the present moment. But the past is only related to material objects, to matter. Is the same true of the future? In the spiritual world, there's no past or future. Everything exists eternally in the present. This phenomena, this sannyasi writes, is very difficult to grasp. I would be extremely grateful for any explanations to help me better understand the topic." So he wrote me. So I had to answer him. Would you like to know how I answered this difficult question? I'll share it with you.
Yes, please.
Yes. So I wrote to the philosopher of the Bhaktivedanta Institute. He and I have discussed this issue several times, but I wanted to hear it in his words because they'll be better than mine. So I wrote Hridayananda Maharaj, who's the philosopher, basically the best philosopher I know, period. And I said, our God brother has this question. How would you like to answer this?
Can I take a stab at it?
Hey, Gail, of course you can.
Okay, so how about, although there is sequence of events in eternal time, but there is no deterioration. There's no deterioration that influences that sequence of events. The definition of eternality is that it's not influenced by material time, which means that there's no influence of deterioration. But that doesn't negate the fact that there can be sequence of events.
That's pretty good, Gail. You're a good philosopher. I'll read you how Maharaj put it, or I'll paraphrase what he said. We have to distinguish between a larger spiritual sense of past, present, future, and the way it functions in this world that we're in. In this world, the past has literally passed. Even though H.G. Wells came up with a time machine, that doesn't exist. That's only in science fiction movies. The past doesn't exist anymore. Thus, the body I had yesterday doesn't exist anymore. Though sometimes my wife will complain I act pretty juvenile. That juvenile body is long gone. Thus, the body I had yesterday doesn't exist anymore, nor the French Revolution, nor the last Dwapara Yuga. In contrast, in the spiritual world, there is a sense of yesterday or days before that, but nothing is lost. It still exists. This is hard to understand. No one's body decayed, no one died, no beautiful relationships were broken by death or misunderstanding. Now, key point, the same holds for the future. Sanskrit bhavishya literally means that which will exist but doesn't exist now. In this world, things of the future simply do not exist now. Yet in the spiritual world, though there is a passing of days and nights, there is a passing of days and nights. Everything there will be, everything that will be already is. So there can be no anticipation without the duality of a lesser now and a better future, or a better now and a lesser future. Notice if Vaikuntha means no anxiety, that means there cannot be anticipation of something better or lamenting of something worse. So there's no lamentation in the spiritual world. But some may find this unsatisfying. So let me give you an explanation that will make it more satisfying. When I was young and happy, I didn't need to become older. When I was a 5-year-old running around, I didn't need to become older. When a person is happy in a loving relationship, they don't need for their partner to die or turn against them or judge age into a withered form. So when we're happy and satisfied, we don't need to age. In the spiritual world, we're always happy, we're always satisfied. So we don't need to age. We don't need whatever loving relationship we have on this planet, our parents, our spouse, our children, we know it will end. In the spiritual world, there's no anxiety. Vaikuntha means that, so it doesn't end. So the conclusion is the sense of past, present, and future are not intrinsically material. It's not just for the material world, and do not necessarily entail loss of things that were or gain of things that don't yet exist. That is the spiritual world. There's no loss, no gain. So does time exist in the spiritual world? Yes, but very different than it does on earth. So I'm going to go back to the verse. And in this verse, it says, the influence of time, which manifests as past, present, and future, cannot touch higher personalities like Brahma, although eventually Brahma, it says it cannot touch, but we know eventually Brahma also has a limited time, but it is so extremely long, it appears as if it's timeless. But even Brahma is mortal. And and the great sages, same thing. So that's, we will stop here and see if there are any questions or comments or additions or subtractions or even criticisms of my hairdo today.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. It's very interesting. When we started, you said today's interaction is going to be different. And indeed, it is a little different, and it's a better different. I personally love it so much. I've always been wondering if somehow devotees could get Tyson, Neil deGrasse, to get exposed to our Vedic teachings. Well, what will his reaction be? And how much I will see that whatever he knows, whatever he's teaching, is already been taught so many years ago, and maybe he can also help others and also help people in general to understand that, hey, this group had this knowledge long time, even before we came into the show. I don't know. If only we can have somebody like Neil deGrasse Tyson to study Bhagavatam, especially Canto 5, that would be wonderful. I've always been thinking about this, but I don't know.
You like him, so you should go to the Hayden Planetarium in New York. It's very good. Upper West Side, around 86th Street. You take the A train there, and you go there and you try to meet him and introduce him. Now, I've heard many of his talks. He generally heads to a Mayavadi place, but he's
Yes.
not a bad person. I think he
No,
has
not at all.
a good mode of goodness, but he
Yeah.
heads that way, as most of these do.
Yeah.
Now, his predecessor at Cornell University was the most famous astronomer of the 20th century. His name was Carl Sagan. And Carl Sagan was very, very famous. And Carl Sagan had the most expensive series ever produced on public television called Cosmos. And in that, Carl Sagan made an interesting but slightly reversed observation. And it's relevant for what you're saying, Sahadev. Here's what Carl Sagan said. He studied all or many of the ancient literatures of the world. And he said only the tradition from India talks about an earth that's billions of years old. Modern radiometric dating of the earth is 4.5 billion years old by half-life of radioisotopes. That's probably an accurate number. And if we do a simple mathematical calculations in the Vedic literature, even in the Gita, we find one day of Brahma is about that age.
Mhm.
So here we have in the Bhagavatam that one day of Brahma is the same age as the earth, which is quite remarkable correlation, very, very close correlation.
Very, very.
Now, if that's so, that says the Bhagavatam knew something other traditions didn't. I mean, at the time, 150 years ago, I mean, how old was the Earth? Well, geologists might have said 100 million, not 4.5 billion, based on rates of sedimentation. Christian theologians were saying 7,000 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And other traditions were going maybe millions of years. No one had billions but the Vedas. So Carl Sagan then made a statement that I disagree with. Here's a statement he made. He said, the only literature on earth that comes close to modern science is the Vedas. Here's why I disagree. He should have said,
it must be the other way around.
Exactly the point. Modern
Yeah.
science is getting close to the Vedas.
Yeah.
So Carl Sagan got that reversed, but he made a good point.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Carl Sagan died relatively young. I mean, I think in his maybe 60s of a cancer, but a very brilliant astronomer. I wish he was around to talk to. So your mission, Sahadev, is go to the museum and try to give one of Sadaputra's books to Neil deGrasse Tyson. So that's your mission. Now we'll
Thank
go.
you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. With your blessings.
Yes, you have to do that.
Yeah.
I would like to see interaction with him. I know he does several interviews with the very famous Brian Greene, the most famous physicist nowadays, who happens to be Yogeshwar's brother. So
so that's Yogeshwar's brother. Okay.
yeah, so there may be eventually some backdoor contact, may or may not be, I don't know. But I like what you're saying. Let's go to Gail. She had her hand up. Gail, do you have a question?
Yes.
Comment?
No, yes, it's a question. I think it was when you were reading from Hridayat Ananda Maharaj's text there about why in the spiritual world, there is no lamentation or anxiety. I don't know if you could read, it is too much to read that part again. It just went a little fast to me because, the way it was being described, I was thinking that it would have been opposite, like if there's no future, right? Then what did he say? That there's no anxiety if there's no future, and if there's no past, there's no lamentation. And I think I was thinking it was the opposite. If there's no past, then there's no
I,
lamentation.
I put what he
For
said
some,
in the chat.
oh, okay, great.
I made it a little easier for you, Gail. But Gail, you always, be it my class or Donna Doswami's class, you always get the award for the one who paid most attention. You get that award. You deserve a special medal for that. Because I always say there's a lullaby. What's the most famous lullaby among the Vaishnavas? A lullaby,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
song people
The
use to sing.
Bhagavatam class is
Srimad
practicing
Bhagavatam.
now.
It's
Yeah.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. But not for you, Gail. You pay attention. So I put that in the chat for everyone to read. So it's right there now.
Thank you
But
so
thank
much.
you for asking that, Gail. Let's go on to Vraha
Varaha.
Acharya. Vraha Acharya, it's all yours. You got the Zoom.
I'm in a very noisy area, so please, I hope my voice will be enough.
Come a little closer to your microphone, please.
Yes. So
That's
I'm
better.
asking, is my voice okay?
Yes.
Better now.
Yeah, I'm in a noisy area. Okay. So thank you very much. It's very wonderful and enlivening. But I want to get more clarification about H.G. Wells inventing time machine. There's a lot about this, and when you said he invented it, it creates a lot of questions in my mind. One, what you described about the spiritual world, no past, no present, no future, because everything is existing simultaneously. So H.G. Wells seems to be paraphrasing that, and that the past is always existing, the present is simultaneously existing, and the future is there. So first is that H.G. Wells couldn't have invented that unless the idea existed. Like you rightly said, in the spiritual world, that is it. So he did not invent it. The part is there. But maybe you're saying that in the material world, this does not exist. But then that is also questionable. Because right now, we have seen a lot of so-called imaginations or inventions by science fiction, and they've come to pass. It's like they've come to the future to see these things, and they brought them back as inventions, and now we're living the reality. So please, can you clarify this? First is that the idea is not invented by him because, of course, it exists in the spiritual world. Now, the question is, if you say it does not exist in the material world, but we have seen examples of so many things invented by science fiction, and we've come to live the reality right now. So how do we really say that this was invented and not something that we are supposed to experience as time goes by? Thank you. I hope you understand my question.
What you're asking me to do is put on my thinking cap, so I'll do that. Okay. Okay, we'll put on a thinking cap for this one. Yeah, I'm not sure if I follow your question. I might, but first thing is there is past, present, and future in the material world, but nothing dies. Things don't change because there's no anxiety. So, like,
you mean in the spiritual world?
In the spiritual world, I meant in the spiritual world. Yeah. So the sense of past, present, future are not intrinsically material, Maharaj said. But things are not lost or gained. So everyone is always in that loving relationship with Krishna. So if right now I get in a loving relationship with Krishna, if I can do that by my sadhana, by my meditation, I'm actually can experience the timelessness of the spiritual world right now. I'll give an example that's quite poignant. I was with Prabhupada a month before he left us, and I walk into Prabhupada's room, quite shocked. I just landed in Delhi and immediately took a taxi to Vrindavan, and uh, and I walked in with a GBC man, a Treya Rishi. We were on the same plane, so that helped me get right in. I went to speak at the Life Comes from Life conference. And it wasn't the Prabhupada we see in the pictures or the Vyasasan that you know. It was an emaciated Prabhupada. He had not eaten hardly anything in a long time due to diabetic kidney failure, to be technical. And he was skin and bones. The room had to be dark. He had to wear dark glasses. So Prabhupada was quite ill. Um, and when we walked in and saw him, he saw the shocked look on our face. And Prabhupada started laughing, really laughing. He thought it was very funny because he said, now are you convinced I'm not this body? I'm living in my bones? Are you finally convinced I'm not this body? So Prabhupada was making a joke out of what happened to his body. And he said, also, don't think this won't happen to you. So the question is a matter of consciousness. If we have Prabhupada's consciousness and our body fades, that's fine. We're still Krishna conscious. Prabhupada was translating until a day before he left. He was always with Krishna. Right before Prabhupada passed on, the last words that Kaviraj said, do you need anything? Maybe water or something. And Prabhupada said, I have no desires. He didn't know material desires. So Prabhupada was already in Vaikuntha. Past, present, future made no difference anymore. So that's what we're trying to get to. I don't know if that answers your question, Vrahacharya, but I hope it does.
I think one other thing Shivara Prabhu was trying to infer is that whatever invention we might think of could not actually be an invention because it already existed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay.
he was asking that, and I was thinking something in my own head, but if you may want to address that.
Okay, an invention. Well, I mean, when I grew up, there were no 747s. And then my first trip to India, they had just started Pan Am flying 747. So that was new. And last week, in September, a plane was flying, a small plane, and the pilot became incapacitated. There was no co-pilot, just a private plane. So a passenger hit the emergency switch, and the plane broadcast on the radio, emergency, emergency, and found the nearest airport and landed by itself, and everyone lived. So that's a new invention. So we can say, are there no new inventions? There are new inventions every day. We go to Amazon, we'll see dozens. So new material inventions come, they go. Sometimes we find in ancient times there were inventions that we can't understand. The bottom of the Mediterranean Sea, they had a shipwreck and they dug it up and they found a computer, not a computer run by electronics with silicon, but a computer run by gears. And it was a brilliant computer. They're not even sure of all the math it can do. So there are old inventions that lost. If we go to the pillar in Delhi, it's made of an iron that won't rust. Nobody knows why. We go to the Sphinx in Egypt and the pyramid. Nobody knows what glue holds it together, the formulas. So they're old inventions that we don't understand. There are new inventions. So we come up with things. Maybe it's been here before, maybe not. So the mind is very creative. We can certainly come up with things. What we don't come up with is a solution to birth, death, old age, and disease. None of our inventions will solve the real problems. And so Prabhupada's point is the real problems are not solved by our inventions. Sure, we can invent something. I mean, I admit when I'm in India now, when I first lived in India, you would never find an AC car, hardly ever.
Mm.
Now, when I'm in India and somebody picks me up in the hot season in Delhi and they have an AC car, I don't mind. If I don't have an AC car, I'll open the windows. We have to, no, in Delhi, you can't open the windows. The air pollution's too bad. I don't know what I'll do. Wear an oxygen mask. But, you know, if there's not an AC car, we use whatever car. And if there's no car, we walk. But yeah, inventions happen. But that's the material side of the world. But none of these inventions solve the real problems of birth, death, old age, and disease. So that's the point. I think we're over time now, so I think we'll stop
Yes.
here. It's 5 minutes after. I don't like going over time. So thank you very much. It's always, as I say, whenever I'm here, it's a special pleasure to speak to this Sangha because we have really wonderful devotees, intelligent, and there's a certain spirituality that's found in the African continent that is very. I was just speaking to Madan Gopal, dear friend of mine from New Jersey, and he was just in.
He will be speaking here shortly, with sometime within this week.
Okay, oh, good.
Yeah.
Oh, let me know when. I'll try to listen.
Okay.
I would like to listen. He just came back from, I think it was Kenya. He
Yes.
initiated a bunch of devotees, and I'm pleased to say it wasn't just the Indian expatriates, it was the Africans, which
Yes.
was what Prabhupada really wanted. And I was just doing a program at his house just a week ago,
Oh.
and he was telling me what a wonderful time he had there, because in Africa there is a deep spirituality, a deep appreciation of following the natural laws, nature's laws, and a deep appreciation of raising the consciousness. And he was just saying it was. And I talked to one of his disciples. I went with him. Was saying it was the best trip of her life. So one day, Krishna willing, on my bucket list to visit Africa, but the closest I can get is this Sangha. But it is a special place on earth. The Western world has tortured and destroyed Africa and colonized it and enslaved it and done everything we can to it. But Prabhupada particularly liked preaching in Africa, especially when he said to the Indians, your job is to make the Africans Krishna conscious. My job is not to make you Krishna conscious. You already have it. You want to throw it away, that's your business. And so the fact that I can be here and be part of this.
Hare Krishna. It seems there is some technical glitch. We'll see. Well, it's still here. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, are you still there? Oh, we lost him. We lost him. But devotees, as always, we thank you so much. And we can thank our revered speaker enough for always, it's always interesting having Prabhuji speak with us because he will engage us, he will make you think. And especially today's Sangha, which is very scientific. And one thing I appreciated the most was Krishna consciousness, specifically Srimad Bhagavatam, is not contrary to modern science, and modern science is not contrary to the science of devotional service, specifically Bhagavatam, provided the two individuals understand it that way, rather than thinking that this is party A, this is party B. Because I have also personally listened to Neil deGrasse Tyson quite a number of times, and oftentimes I get surprised where he's getting all this information from, because if he were speaking using some Sanskrit words, he would say, this is Hare Krishna devotee. That is not Hare Krishna devotee. So I'm not sure we might be able to have Prabhuji back. And of course, the class was over, the katha was over. So we're going to humbly request you all to kindly unmute yourselves, and we all chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra to express our deepest appreciation to our revered speaker, even though he's not here, but he will hear about it, and he will feel it, and he will know about it. That we all unmuted and chanted Hare Krishna Mahamantra, expressing our appreciations. So you may all unmute. Jai. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vancha kalpa taranyascha kripa sindhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. All glories to Jagat Guru Param Guru Shri Prabhupada ki jai. All glories to His Grace BRAHMA-TIRTHA Prabhu ki jai. All glories to Samadhu Vaishnava devotees ki jai. Hare Krishna.